Thank you so much, Gail. And thank you so much to everyone who is here this afternoon. I know that this workshop is really, really meaningful and comes from a really deeply personal place for me today. And so I want to share a little bit about the why on that front. But before we get into that, I just want to shout out the fact that this is a Sales Enablement Society Chicago event, but there is really people joining us today from really all around the country, which is awesome. There's people that are a part of enablement communities in other cities that I see are here, or people that we've invited from our professional networks that might not be in enablement roles, but are in those professional coaching roles. And so just great to see everyone who made the time to be here and really put that effort forward. So wonderful to meet you all. And for those I don't know, cannot wait to get to know you more. So just a quick introduction on myself, just briefly. My name is Jess Ellis. I'm based here in Chicago. I'm a part of Sales Enablement Society here and one of our board members. And what we try to do as a Chicago board team is really think heavily about what does this community need in the new year? And there's tons of topics and certainly so much we could think about and cover, but the one thing that kind of came to mind is I had found myself in a transition last fall, partially expected, partially unexpected. And I kind of took that reflective time and took that time pretty seriously and thought, what am I doing in terms of my career? There was a really big weight on my shoulders that I had no idea I was even carrying. I'd been working at a variety of different startups. I know some of you I've worked with in the past. I'd worked at numerous different B2B tech. I've been a team of one in a number of those roles. I've been building teams and working really hard down in the trenches, like many of you probably do every day. And once I came up for air and kind of took that breath, I thought, gosh, am I even in the right career? I'll be honest, like, do I even really want to continue to do sales enablement? Is this really my passion, or are these other things in my mind and in my kind of the back of my mind, things I want to pursue? And so I had all of these questions and really no answers. And almost just kind of like, where do I go with this? And what do I do with this information and this kind of lack of clarity? And so the first thing I did is I started having a ton of different conversations, just like many of you, networking conversations. I sat down and had coffees or lunches with people. I started applying to some new professional opportunities, some in enablement, some not. And the one thing I noticed, and again, many of you have probably found yourself here as well, is you'd get this question, hey, tell me about yourself. What are you focused on? What do you want to do? Where's your mindset at? It's a new year. What are you thinking? And I was not able to answer that question with real clarity. What I was doing was I was rambling on. I was sort of down the rabbit hole, or maybe trying to make like statements or really defend the position I was in and really over explain kind of the boat I was in, which was a really unclear one. And kind of came to this conclusion that, you know what, Jess, time out. You really need to think about what is that narrative? What are your passions? What are those places you really see yourself in a future role? Maybe it's an enablement, maybe it's not. And so I put a lot of hard work into that. And I thought, this is what I want to do for Sales Enablement Society, because I can guarantee, and I know I've talked to many of you guys one-on-one in the past, this is something all of us as professionals could do, right? It's a new year. Many of us are in transition. Many of us are going maybe after a new promotion opportunity or a new opportunity, or even just thinking clearly about the new year, right? And so that's what we're going to do today. And so I bring this idea to you, and hopefully we can all walk away with a new conversation, a new word, phrase, aspect of your narrative. And so that's what we're all about. So you guys can dump things into the chat. We're going to do some small group partner stuff, but I'll kind of comment here on where we're headed next, just in terms of an agenda. Okay, so agenda for today. We're actually going to hear from two of the individuals on this call who have already put the time and effort into their narrative and the method that they use to do that. Because I also understand that it's very overwhelming when you're like, whoa, blank slate. What do I stand for? And kind of what does that about me really sound like? So let's hear a couple of examples, even if they can give you a little bit of inspiration. After that, we'll do sort of two small groups. I'm really thinking probably partners, because that's the vision I had originally, is just partner up with someone. I understand that can be a little bit awkward when you don't know the person and you're talking all of a sudden on a pretty deep topic, but I think we can do it. And I put a lot of faith in all of us to do that today. We'll mix and match into a second group. Each one will have a little bit of a different flavor, but again, all on the same theme of crafting our narrative. We'll come back at the end and just an invitation to act, and I'll talk about what that is and what that looks like, and some ways we can really take our learning and do something with it. As we all know, in training and enablement, coaching, whatever, we want to see people who join our sessions, do something, take some action. And so we'll put that credibility and accountability on the table. Anything I missed, team, or anything before we move into our intros here? Okay, excellent. Well, I'm going to turn it right on over to Elena.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Super excited to meet with you. And I'm sure I'll work with some of you whenever we get broken out into the breakout rooms. But hi, if I have not met you, hello, my name is Elena. I'm in Chicago. And I know I've reached out to many people on this call to kind of join us today. And I'm really excited to kind of dive in deep. I'll kind of walk you through my method of how I talk a little bit about me. It's always the age-old question a lot of us hear, tell me about yourself. Okay, yeah, let's go into it. So whenever I'm thinking of my narrative, I will say that I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it's whatever feels authentic to you. And something that feels authentic to me is focusing on content development. So that's been my superpower throughout my entire career. I started in marketing and I have transitioned into sales enablement. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like. And so imagining that, maybe we're sitting down at a cup of coffee, or maybe I'm in an interview with a hiring manager and I focus on past, present, and future. So what that sounds like is, yeah, sure. I'm more than happy to tell you about myself. A little bit about me is that I followed my passion of content development throughout my entire career. Currently, I am an agile focused sales enablement professional with a strong background in instructional design, content governance, pre-sales program development, and pretty much acting as a scrum master to ensure that all go-to-market leaders align on a shared outcome. I've spent my career at the intersection of product marketing, sales, product, engineering, etc., by serving B2B sales orgs across the globe on a ratio of 1:3 all the way up to 1:250. Whenever I think of what I want to do next in enablement, my ultimate goal is to build something from the ground up and truly build a program so I can emulate the empathy, leadership, and guidance that I've personally received from other women in business. So that's a little bit about my narrative. It's heavy on the past, present, and future. And I also like to add a sentence in there of, if I'm interviewing for a job, of, the reason why this role stood out to me is ABCXYZ. But I do lean on the areas of expertise just so I can try to stand out in a busy market. And I know that there are many different ways that you could go down whenever you're writing your own narrative. And I'm going to turn it over to Shannon so she can walk you through how she writes her narrative.
Elena, that was awesome.
Thanks.
It was really good. So everybody, I'm Shannon Ellis. I am a board member here for the Chicago Sales Enablement Society and active member of the enablement community. So there's a lot, there's a lot of us right now that are going through some changes in the enablement world, right? And that could be a change in our career. It could be a change in our industry or our profession. Some people are still with enablement, or they're looking to take a leap from an individual contributor role to a leadership role. And when you're making big shifts like this, you want to find a way to speak about your skill set, your strengths and experiences that will translate to support you in the direction you're looking to move toward. So to craft my narrative, what I've done is I took a look at myself from an outsider's point of view. So I took a look at different assessments that I've taken in my mentorship, and I actually see my mentor here. Hi, Paula. She's great. If you're ever looking for a mentor, I highly recommend her. So I've taken assessments like the DISC assessment, Strength Finders, Harrison assessment, GC index, and by taking those, I'm able to see kind of the common themes and traits, and those will help me to clarify maybe some of the areas that I didn't really give myself credit for. I also consider, what my mentors are saying that we discuss, as well as what previous employers, customers, and coworkers have said to compliment me, right, in the past. Some of those feel-good moments. Even in our annual evaluations, when we're getting those evaluations, they usually do that sandwich thing where it's like, compliment, fix this, compliment. I'll take those compliments and I'll find that, again, that common theme to craft the narrative, and in some cases, I'll take the actual phrases from them and incorporate it. So here is my example of my narrative. I'm drawn to enablement because I'm motivated to help others find their aha moments, and my optimism helps them believe in their potential. My authenticity and natural curiosity encourages others to open up to me, allowing me to uncover and leverage their strengths. Additionally, I have a happy blend of creativity and attention to detail, so I can easily apply myself to problem-solving challenges, improving processes, and strategizing to hit the goals I'm given. In the end, everything I do is done with integrity and heart, and I strive to bring a laugh or a smile to everyone's days. I admit it's not done, but that's why we're here today, right? Is to help improve and to craft this narrative. So my personal goal today is to tweak my narrative a little bit to sprinkle some of like Elena's style on, where I might be able to incorporate some more of the hard skills and experience that speak more directly to enablement. So as I'm looking for jobs, when folks are like, you don't have direct experience, let's talk about this, I'm able to speak to it and say, like, this is what I can bring to the table. So that's what I've got. Back to you.
Awesome, Shannon. And Elena, both of you guys, it takes a lot of courage to get up here and just, put that time in. And so I want to hand it to both of them. And I know exactly that this is something hopefully all of us can get our arms around as we go through the workshop. It probably will take much longer than the time we have today. But we'll take a first pass at what are the things we can do with the community around us with the time we've allotted. And so that brings us into the breakout. So let me sort of do this in kind of three parts. I think it'll make it a little bit easier, just in terms of like what we need to do here logistically, and then kind of bear with me because I'm working off of just one little measly laptop screen. So first group. So I'm going to give this prompt, and then I'm going to give you guys a document that has all the same information so that you don't need to worry, I didn't write everything down or I didn't get it. We'll have that in front of you here in a second. So this first group, again, you're going to have either 2 or 3 other people. It'll be very small. When you get in there, well, first off, the theme of the group is going to be words, phrases, and statements. And this is what I think was most helpful for me. I know for sure for Elena and Shannon as well, is let's just not try to do the whole thing right off the bat. Let's think about what are some of the key words and phrases or statements that we want to bring into this narrative. So number 1, getting into your group. If you don't know the person or people in the room, go ahead and do a quick intro. You don't need to spend a ton of time there. And then just kind of jump into it, a brainstorming session with the person or people to say, hey, what are some of those phrases or statements that I would like to maybe jot down for myself? Just for a soundboard, it could be things about your professional strengths, maybe leading into, hey, what are my passions? Where do I tend to really lean in at work? I was thinking about things like when I really lose track of the time when I'm working on something that's really energizing and you sort of forget that you're even in the mode or you get really into the zone. What are those projects? What are those feelings? What are those aspects? Or maybe it's things around your core values, professionally, personally, and otherwise. So that's what we're going to do in this first group. Before we go into that, is there any questions or anything from the group? I want to make sure everything feels really clear and clean. And I also want to make sure everyone can, again, access this worksheet. A couple of us have put it in there. It's just a simple Google Doc. All right, as everyone's coming back into the room, what I would love to do is get a couple of people to speak up, and just in terms of some of the words or phrases that were mentioned in your room. And so, Lisa, if I could start potentially with you, if you're open to it, I'd
Sure.
like to hear from you in terms of, hey, what were some of those statements or phrases?
So our team, we had 3 folks in our team, Alex and I believe Danielle. Yes, Danielle.
Okay.
And some of the words that we came up with were process-driven, creative, coach, collaborative, change agent, prioritization, time management, process improvement, organizational efficiencies, measuring impact, and being the voice of the field.
Wow.
Good work. Yeah, very comprehensive. Thank you, Lisa. Maybe we can go to another group. Emily or Shannon, I know you guys were in the same group. Would one of you, Emily, maybe you would speak up? please?
Sure. I went second, so mine was, but I was just getting good coaching, even still in the chat for my group. It was awesome. So I did, I based mine on strength finders. And so what I was sharing were my strengths are around woo, communication, individualization, positivity. And so I spoke to that heads down work that I love to do, Jess, like you said, where I really in connecting with others. And so in the enablement world, the change management and really understanding of the problems we are trying to go out and fix or tackle by rolling out XYZ program. I really, with that individualization and communication strength, I put that as collaborative, right? I have the ability to collaborate and understand the needs of unique business partners to make sure that we are rolling out something that has legs that can live on beyond. So that's where I focused. But I'd say Steve had a really great outcome as well. I don't want to tag him on the spot, but he had a good three phrases he included. 3-word phrase.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. Oh, I was gonna say we kind of wound up with I talked for probably about most of the time, sorry, that's why we had to cut Emily's a little bit short. But then we kind of came up with versatile, confident, and able to simplify the complex as a nice little short phrase.
I noticed that in our group as well. Sorry, I had to jump off and jump back in. We're all three of us have done the Clifton Strength Finders, and what I would say for that is go through if you've done this assessment, go through your strengths and take 1 or 2 key phrases out of it, and what speaks to you the most strongly of these traits, and you can kind of put it all together to create that narrative as well.
Awesome. That's a great tool. I would love to hear from Maria Barella. And just to kind of quick, Maria, if you're cool with it. So Maria's a super guest of honor from my standpoint. She's been someone I worked with like years ago. She's a professional coach and someone who's a very near and dear mentor to me. And just so glad you have your presence here. And hopefully, I'd just love to hear what some of those phrases were, Maria, that came out of your group.
Well, I can. So Gail joined us to just kind of facilitate the space. And one of the things that she stressed is making sure that that you bring in the personal. I chose to focus on, I just used as the words, some of my strengths from Strengths Finder for that exercise. But what I would add though, just in terms of thinking about your, how you frame this thing out is your promise, your perspective, and the possibility. So what's your promise in that relationship, in that potential relationship or engagement? What is the perspective? So what context are you speaking into or coming from? And what possibilities do you want to project into that relationship for them to potentially see a future with you? That's kind of what I would add, or my thoughts around where we are in the conversation.
Thanks, Maria. That's wonderful. And we'll do one more. Katie Chatterton, I'm really happy you could jump in here today.
Me too.
And yes, I know you're very vibrant. So let's hear from you real quick and then we'll move forward.
I will. Maria, if you could put those 3 words in the chat, that would be so helpful. That ended with that like future perspective or whatever. I wanted to capture your exact language there. But what the direction our group took it was super positive and very energetic. So already appreciating being here, and thanks for the invite, Jess. We talked a lot about the where you tend to lean in, where you get lost in your work. And for some of us, that's in methodology and strategy. And for others, it's more in being cross-functional, collaborative, big picture. And then we kind of combined that with trying to create a story image. And if I can find your face, I can remember your name. Deborah was talking about bringing in something you can visualize. So like doctor-patient analogy, or like someone to be linked arm in arm with, like we are together on this journey, like I'm mentoring you through this. One of the other words that I love that stood out was, I think the first person responded with it, of being the voice of the field. So kind of an internal advocate for the teams that we work with. And that sort of resonated with some of the analogy we were coming up with. Deborah, did that picture kind of come to completion in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about how Mia was like a quote unquote trusted advisor in sales, and that's kind of an overused term. And so how could we translate that into like a powerful story or image? I was saying how in the past I had used like my superpower is, that's a little overused now, but when I first started using it, it wasn't. And I think it pictures people, I think it catches people attention, and then how they picture you, right? Like a superhero with a cape. So I don't know, I was trying to brainstorm with me around, is there something about being a partner or like an archaeologist helping people dig into the real problems? And we were just brainstorming like what kind of analogy and story could we tell that would kind of keep people's attention and make you memorable.
Thank you all for speaking up and just for sharing. I think hopefully everyone's jotting things down and getting something from this larger group, which I think is extremely valuable. We're going to jump into one more, but I'd love to sort of build upon what we just worked through as a group or individually within those first ones. And so the second group, we'll go into groups of 3. We're going to start answering kind of like what I was thinking about, which was the whole inspiration for the whole thing, is like the questions, like the people are going to ask you if you put yourself out there to have a cup of coffee, or you jump onto a Zoom to reconnect, or you're in an interview, or you're maybe thinking about a promotion or whatever that might be. And so starting to answer some of these questions, and Marie, I see your hand up. I'll go to you in just one second. Start kind of thinking about those questions, right? It could be the simple one of just, hey, tell me about yourself, which we all know is a daunting one, and it can take you down many roads. Maybe what are some of your goals? What's your mindset? What's new? What are you working towards for the new year? I think we all find ourselves in these conversations, whether they're structured and professional, or maybe just ad hoc. Hey, we're just catching up. It's the new year. So let's put some time into that with your new group. And when you get in there, I think, just to sort of backtrack, I'm sorry, this is kind of out of order, but when you go in to introduce, maybe tack on a couple of the little keywords you came up with. Hey, I'm Jess. And I like to bring a like really collaborative and innovative and visionary approach to my work. Or, hey, I'm Jess. I'm really looking to do more, pursue such and such. So off the cuff, maybe there's something that was on that notepad that you can start to kind of bring a little bit of that flavor in if you're comfortable doing that. Just a quick thumbs up around the room if that makes sense in the sense of what we're going to do. Thank you guys. Maria, let's go to your question real quick. I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, just really quickly, there was a question about what I meant by promise, I think.
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah, so, promise is synonymous with brand. And so if someone told me that outside in the parking lot, 200 cars that Apple has created an electric vehicle, I could walk straight out to that car because they've been very consistent in their promise that whatever they do will be beautiful, elegant, and easy to use. So that's their promise to me. That's their brand. And so that's what I mean when I talk about promise. What is your promise in that relationship? What can they count on you for?
It's huge. Hugely powerful. I appreciate you bringing that concept and that methodology to this, Maria. It's awesome. And hopefully everyone could see it in the chat. We'll make sure we distribute this after the fact as well. But again, we're going to mix and match. I kind of like to say musical chairs for fun, but we're going to go to our next room for 10 minutes. Okay, so off we go. Hey, everyone. Is it just me, or is this like the fastest hour we've had in a while on like a work day? I feel like this time is flying.
Gone quickly.
Yeah, it has gone quickly.
Which I think is a great thing. Hopefully it's been a good use of an hour. I know it is the end of the month and there's a lot of things at play, but certainly, anytime you can get back to invest in yourself or invest in this community is, I think, a really good use of time. So, thank you all so much. So 2 more things. And of course we will obviously end on time, if not a couple minutes early. I know you're all very busy, but just in terms of, oh, go ahead. Was someone trying to speak up? Sorry. Okay. So I would just be curious, like, what is something that you took away from today that you weren't expecting? You know, we all kind of walked in here probably with a different mode, a different, you know, just brain space, frankly. I would just call on a couple of people. Maybe Jean, you could start, you know, what's something that, you know, was a light bulb for you or something that you learned that you weren't expecting today?
That your narrative or your elevator pitch doesn't have to be prescriptive, and it's not going to be the same for everybody, and to make it personal. And I really like the idea of using your Clifton strengths and using a picture or an image to using a visual to create a picture in somebody's head.
Patrick, what about you?
Well, the biggest takeaway I had is just being able to see all of these enablement people for the first time in a Zoom call together, that I've only seen them on LinkedIn before. So that's really what I've been focusing on. I was like, oh my gosh, this is this person that I've just liked their posts all the time. So sorry it was not more educational, but definitely a lovely experience.
Absolutely. And feel free to add extra stuff into the chat. We won't obviously get a chance to go to everyone, but Paul, can we pick on you?
Sure. For me, I actually met someone new, Wendy, isn't it? So that was one of the things I was hoping is I would get to expand the network and meet someone new. And we had a really good chat in our last breakout. I got here a little late, so I did miss the other breakouts, but I love there seems to be a real sense of community here. And I think, well, it's probably almost cliche to say that I think we all need that now more than ever, but I'm going to say it anyway. So really glad everybody was able to get together.
Yeah, I agree completely. The community is the most important piece right now. Rachel, can we hear from you real quick before we go to invite to action?
Sure. Hi, everyone. This experience for me is a reminder that I need to focus some on myself, that I tend to not do that as much as I should. So I did take away a lot of really great insight from Anna and from others that spoke, and refining what my elevator pitch, for lack of a better word, is to as I'm actively interviewing. So I also found this to be very energizing, and it was nice to just not pound the job postings and actually be doing something else on the computer. So thank you, Jess, for inviting me. I appreciate it. And I hope to connect with all of you and to continue to participate in things like this. So thank you for including me.
And that's a great point. I'm not even going to pull the slide up because it kind of takes away from all the names and faces, which is what we're here to see. But the community is not going to get stronger and better unless we show up to these events. And so like, I wasn't sure if we'd have like 2 of us or 100 of us, but wherever we landed is perfect, because the best thing is everyone was on their camera, off of mute, and really interactive. And I think like that's the first time I've seen an event like this in a while, where it's not just blank boxes and people doing other things. And again, I know everyone's busy, but I think if we can plug into these events in the future, and we're going to hype up what we're doing next, and there's a lot of stuff happening, like if we all don't show up and help, what's the point, right? We want this community to grow. We want to elevate the profession for what it is. And I think that takes a lot of intention for every single person to do something towards that. And don't just expect everyone around to do that work. So a couple of things. Tim is on our board, he's here, but he's the one who gave me the idea, the invitation to act or invitation for action. I had not heard that phrase, but certainly scooped it right up. What do you do now? So a couple of things. One, I would invite you all to do something, like right now, maybe set up a networking conversation, grab a coffee, do something with this. That's something I've been totally doing all the time in my transition. It's just like getting out there and talking. I think conversations are powerful. You never know who you're going to meet or what the heck you're going to learn.
Hey, can I make a suggestion on that thing?
Sure, please.
With 2 seconds. One thing, go ask someone else who you work with what your qualities are. It's just nice to hear from another human being instead of guessing inside your own noggin, which is, I'm good at this, but I suck at this. I promise you all know people who will give you, oh, gee, Deborah, you're awesome at X. That will fill it in for you, and you will trust her more than yourself. That's just the thing I believe in most on this topic.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And then the other thing, there's 2 more pieces. One, get out onto somewhere and showcase your brand. Maybe you update your headline, maybe you put a post out there, maybe you go as far as creating a video. I will be super vulnerable to say, and I've said this to a few of you guys, there's been some posts on LinkedIn I really wanted to make in my own transition to put myself out there in X, Y, and Z format and just didn't. I got as far as the new photo because it was like 10 years old. But that was it. And I'm like, gosh, I'm struggling to get it out there, and I would overanalyze. And so I would say, hey, you should hopefully see, I'll try to get out there with a post at some point. And maybe you'll do that too. Maybe we can help and build each other up on that front and put out there what we're doing. Maybe it's a video post, whatever. And then lastly, I'm going to invite each and every one of you guys, same place, same time next week. There's no pressure, but come in and share what you've got. And like maybe a few of us will straggle in. I will definitely be there, and maybe I'll be there by myself reading out loud, but it's an accountability thing where, hey, next Tuesday at noon, if you've got 5 minutes, it doesn't need to be the full hour. And if you don't, you're already, hey, I'm already busy, you can shoot me a note and we can catch up or maybe connect with someone else. But I do think that is so crucial. So it's 1 o'clock Central on the dot. I do want to be mindful we're all busy. So thank you all, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you, team.